Our keynote speaker for today is one of the most prolific software testing authors, and he gives consulting and training on software testing and software quality all over the world. Rex Black.
Sitting in the back, if you can't hear me, raise your hand. Haha, stupid speaker joke there. Speaking of stupid, today's talk is on stupid metric tricks. You guys ready to put that on? Here we go. Now, I love the look on, who's the guy in the back? That's Curly, right? Or no, the one with the curly hair in the back. What's Larry? Now look at him. Two in the front. This is great. The one in the back, like 2 + 2 is 3. Really? You ever feel like Larry? You're looking at something going, hey man, that just doesn't add up. And maybe you just had kind of a funny feeling about, well, why is this bothering me? After all, it's metrics, it's objective, it's quantitative. It must be good, right? I mean, we're engineers. We're supposed to use numbers. Yeah, but we're supposed to use them right. So today, I'm going to talk about some classic mistakes that people make with using metrics. And I can't top Doug's story for, being an inspiration to young men climbing a mountain, but I am going to try to share a few stories from my own experience as a consultant about when I saw people doing stupid metrics tricks. Now, just to start off, I mean, I'm calling these stupid metrics tricks, but please understand that I'm not saying if you look at this and go, oh crap, I've done that, therefore I must be stupid. That's not my point at all. I mean, these stupid metrics tricks that I'm going to talk about are things that smart people did. Okay, so if you are like, oh, I'm so smart, I could never do that. Yeah, you could. And if you're thinking, oh, I must be stupid because I did that, no, not necessarily. It just wasn't a good thing to do. Okay? All right, now, so how many of you would say, quick show of hands here, you have seen somebody do some sort of stupid thing with metrics? More than half of you. Yep. I guess the rest of you dislocated your shoulder over the weekend and can't raise your arms because I'm pretty sure that you've all seen it if you've been in this business a while, right? So we'll look at some common ones, common mistakes, and you may go, oh, wow, yeah, I remember that one. Now, there might be some that I don't talk about that you like, yeah, I've seen that one too. And certainly I have no intention that this is like an exhaustive catalog of dumb things that people do with metrics. I've been to a lot of places, but I certainly haven't talked to everybody in this business, so I'm sure there are plenty of ways that people do this wrong. So, light. It's a simple thing, right? You notice something going on with the slide up there? Yeah? Huh. Changing colors? Is it easier to read or harder to read when it's getting lighter like that? You find yourself paying attention to the bullet item that's changing colors? No? Yes? Okay. Some of you do. So if you were like going, look, something's happening with that one, you're focusing on that. This is kind of a really simple demonstration of something referred to as the Hawthorne effect. Now, you all know the Hawthorne effect? No? Okay, you're about to. So back in the early 1900s, there was this guy named F.W. Taylor. Anybody know Taylor? Taylor, yeah? Scientific management? Yeah. So Taylor believed that there was a one right way to carry out any process. That any sort of process could be optimized in such a way that it was guaranteed to return the best possible result with respect to effectiveness and efficiency. And he set about spreading this idea through what are called time and motion studies. which is basically a fancy way of saying watch and measure people at work with respect to effectiveness and efficiency, and look for ways of tweaking the process to make it more effective and efficient. Okay? So, some followers of, or students of, I guess you could say, Taylor, were involved in one of these time and motion studies at a factory in Hawthorne, hence the name Hawthorne effect. And so they're trying to figure out, how do we make these people in this factory more effective and efficient? And so they thought, lighting. Lighting, that's got to be a factor. So they're taking measurements, right, how productive people are, and they turn the lighting up. They make it brighter. They measure productivity. Productivity goes up. Oh, okay. So we've got one of the factors here. Yeah, we've grabbed a hold of one of the factors. We have data now that says this is a factor that affects productivity. So then they turn the lighting down, lower than it had been before. And productivity did what? No, it went up. Now, it went up again. Why? Well, because it was getting measured, right? People were paying attention to their productivity because it was getting measured. The light was actually not what was causing the change in the productivity. It was that it's getting measured, so people were paying attention to it. Yeah, the light, not actually the factor. So you might say, oh, okay, well, that's great. That's just great. I will put in place a way of measuring the productivity of my team, and they will pay attention to productivity, and it will go up. Well, there's a couple problems with that. One of the problems is something that Capers-Jones pointed out in one of his recent books, Economics of Software Quality, which is, as a profession, a software engineering profession, our productivity metrics suck. They suck. They're horrible. Capers didn't say that because he doesn't talk that way, but I do. So he said something along the lines that they are exceptionally poor and not connected to what we're trying to measure, which, you know, is true, because think about it. Lines of code, measuring developer productivity in terms of lines of code. Come on, I got a computer science and engineering degree. I can write code. You want to pay me by the line of code? Woohoo! You know, to quote Scott Adams, I'm going to go code me a minivan. If you haven't seen that Dilbert cartoon, you got to see it. It's hilarious. So yeah, we've got very bad productivity metrics. So what would you measure? And let's say, even if you could figure it out, aha, I've got the golden productivity metric. We're going to measure function points per iteration. We're going to, reward velocity. Okay? All right, what gets measured gets done, and what doesn't get measured doesn't. Okay? So, the very fact that you're measuring something redirects people's attention to that which you are measuring away from that which you are not measuring. Are you sure that the things that you're not measuring don't actually matter? Right? Like, my daughters, I love my daughters. Even the 16-year-old who's just learned to drive, and on her first drive by herself after getting her license, backed into a telephone pole with the brand new car that we had gotten her. Was brand new to us. They're great. One of the big measurements of their self-worth seems to be things like followers and retweets and stuff like that. I'm glad I don't worry about that. Now wait, here, hang on. Somebody just retweeted me here. But people get into this, and then things like this happen. You see that? People walking across the street. Bump! Flying through the air, right? Because, you know, what are they paying attention to? Are people actually measuring, am I getting hit by a car? How many times per month do I have a near-death experience because I'm playing with my phone while crossing the street? You know, people don't actually measure that. They're like, oh, I got retweeted. Yay. It doesn't do you a lot of good if you're in a full-body cast, though, right? So, you know, you're thinking, well, I'm not going to put in place a measurement that's going to get anybody killed. I mean, you know, wouldn't do that. No, you wouldn't do that. But you could be distracting people from things that are actually as important as the thing you're trying to measure. I mean, is productivity what you really want to measure by itself? Okay, would you? Because, I mean, you could turn out a lot of features however you want to measure it. They could suck, right? They could be really bad. So I want to just pick on this idea of, you know, Zuckerberg's comment about, you know, move fast and break stuff. I think I'm paraphrasing because I don't think he said stuff, but, you know, you get the picture, right? So when I got here on my flight in from the other Portland, Portland, Maine, which I thought was kind of cool because that's got to be the only time in my life I'm ever going to go from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon in one day. But anyway, I got here. I like fire up the Uber app on my phone, and I say, okay, get me a car. I'm in, you know, the airport. Well, the Uber app, apologies to any of you who work for Uber, sent my driver to the middle of the Columbia River. That's where it told him I was. I guess they dispatched a U-boat to pick me up, and I was like walking around in my diving suit. Right? I mean, you know, I understand being off by a few hundred yards one way or the other, but I mean, you know, the airport is not in the middle of the river, is it? You're not like landing seaplanes on it, are you? You know, so this is typical, and I'm sure you've noticed this, you know, of the focus is on, in a lot of companies, just move fast, get stuff out there, throw spaghetti against the wall, see if it sticks. Okay, if you're Facebook, all right, I can get that. Now, if you're involved in making safety-critical medical devices, could you please not do that? Could you please not move fast and break things? Because those things that get broken are going to be people. So I think this is a problem that we get fixated on. We're going to have a metric, right? I have no problem with velocity as a metric. I think that's smart. If you're in a agile team, yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in estimation, and I'm a big believer in measuring velocity. But if that's the only thing that you're looking at, you know, you're going to move fast and break stuff. Or just random behaviors ensue. You ever heard of this expression, pushing on a string? No? It's an economics expression for what Bernanke was trying to do after the big crash. Well, let's just keep lowering interest rates. And, why is nothing happening, right? Because there's a point where you're pushing on a string, right? You've done all you can do, and it's not actually going to result in desired change. So I did a engagement with a client once. I'm not going to name the name, but it was a large government agency. And these guys the management team was really, really serious about making sure that their annual performance evaluations were objective and fair, not subject to biases. And this is a real concern, right? I mean, if you're sitting back going, well, this idea of assigning performance evaluations based on metrics is just plain crazy. Why would anyone do that? Well, I mean, it often is rooted in good intentions, because otherwise you run the risk that it's all just a big popularity contest, right? And that's a real problem. There's a sort of aphorism, management aphorism, that goes, I like you means I'm like you. Ever hear that? Yeah? If you've never heard that, think about that for a minute. Basically, it's a long evolutionary thing of being able to identify one of your group. You're within your group, so you're safe within your group. When it's not, then maybe you're not so safe, right? Think back, evolutionary history, there would be strong reasons why that sort of psychology would develop, and just like the psychology of eat lots of sugars and fats every time they're available made a lot of sense when we were chasing animals in Africa, right, and living that way. Doesn't make so much sense when you can walk into a store anytime and buy all the chocolate and all the sugar and cake that you want, right? Similarly, this I like you because I'm like you, because we are similar, is an exceptionally bad psychological thing for modern society, yes? I'm sure you can rattle off just in recent history dozens and dozens of really tragic examples of why that doesn't work. And while what generally plays out in a organization is, one would hope, not quite that savage as some of the stuff we see on our TV screens, it's still, that dynamic is there, right? That psychological dynamic is there. So, it's a real problem that you would want to try to overcome with having an objective, fair way of rating people that is not going to be corroded by that bias, okay? So, back to this agency. What did they do? They want to have this objective way of measuring people. And so they've got developers and they've got testers. So the testers get rated based on, what do you think? What metric? Bugs. Number of bugs detected. That's right. Developers get rated by? No, worse than that. No, worse than that. Worse than that. No, sitting in the chair, no. That would even be less bad. No, they got graded based on the number of bugs found in their code. Not the number of bugs they fixed, but the number found in their code. Two scorpions in a bottle, huh? Right? I mean, that's, so, the tester's incented by a minimum target number of bugs they need to find per year, or they get dinged on their performance evaluations. The developers have a maximum number of bugs that can be found in their code in a year, or they get dinged on their performance evaluations. Man, it was the most toxic situation I think I've ever run into. And the managers were completely unapologetic. They were like, well, hey, we've got to have something objective. Well, we're free from bias. Well, yeah, I suppose the gladiator contests in Rome were free from bias too, right? Throw them in there with swords and see who walks away, But I mean, that's, what kind of behavior are you driving, right? It just frustrated the hell out of people. People were furious. I heard people describe publicly, in front of other colleagues, describe their managers in words that I could not repeat here. Okay? And I've got a pretty creative vocabulary. I'm willing to say a lot of things in public, and not any of these things, I'll tell you. It was surreal. In front of like 20, 30 other people, that my manager is a fill in the blanks. And I don't mean blank, right? What kind of behavior are you going to create? Hostility, for sure. Do you think productivity went up in that situation? How much time do you think was spent by testers trying to justify why every single little jot and tittle on a screen was a Sev1 bug? And how much time do you think was spent by developers trying to argue that, you know, deleting the entire customer table and setting the server on fire wasn't actually a Sev1 bug, right? You know, how much energy will go into that? So, pushing on a string or worse, right? I mean, at least pushing on a string, that'd be, you know, how many hours in a chair, right? I mean, okay, I can measure that. It's not going to have any effect on desired behavior, right? But at least I'm not encouraging toxic behavior within my team. Yeah? I mean, if you could possibly get worse than I like you equals I'm like you, you know, they figured it out, right? Because basically, I might be like you, but I dislike you, because only by stabbing you in the back can my scores go up. Yeah? Okay, so time for a demonstration. Doug, we're going to have a little fun here. Doug has some, are we calling them volunteers or victims?
Some cases sitting in the wrong spot at the right time. So let me see if we can get some people. Brian Spires, you here?
Uh-oh.
We're going to get a substitute for him.
He found out what was about to happen.
Rachel, come on up. Cable, come on up. I'm sorry, I saw Cable earlier. Cable there we are. Larry Ward, come on up. Next contestant. Ian Absner.
Pick a seat, pick a seat.
Pronounced his name wrong. He works for me. There we go. Marion Morris. There we go. I need one more victim. How about Perry Hunter? He picked on me earlier today.
The bullet whistling past your ear?
Yeah,
you didn't duck fast enough. Okay, how many of you know who Deming was? Okay, so some of you guys will be familiar with this. How many of you seen this before? Deming's red bead experiment. Wow, one? Just one. Okay. Well, that's good, I guess, because now, at the end of today, you all will have seen it. Okay, so we have 3 teams here, and we have 3 scoreboards. Uh-oh. I want to make sure these are all visible. The camera guys tell me if these are all visible on the screen. Yeah? Okay, good. All right, so here's what's going to happen. These 3 teams, red team, white team, blue team. Can you remember your colors? Red, white, blue. Yeah? That's, you know, because that's easy. These 3 teams are going to compete for a prestigious prize, which is a hat, and company logo on it here, so, you know, sorry, I was the best I could do. That are Starbucks gift cards, and you guys are out of luck, I'm afraid. So, now, each team has a paddle, okay? The paddles are pretty much identical. They've got 9 holes in them. Each team has a Tupperware container of beads. The beads are a mixture of white beads and red beads. Can you all see that? Kind of, sort of. Okay. And each team has an identical Very fancy, TSA approved Ziploc bag. They also have a marker, okay? And they have a scoreboard. All right, so the person with the beads in front of him or her is going to be the selector, and the person with the marker is going to be the counter, bead counter. You're temporarily a bead counter. You're almost an accountant, but not quite. Okay, so if the bead counter from each team would get up and select their scoreboard and just write their team name, right? Red, white, blue at this point on the scoreboards over there, if you would do that for me. There we go. All right. Yep. Okay, so we are ready to gather metrics. Now, I'm afraid you guys are going to have to be shuffling back and forth between your scoreboards and here because you are the bead counters and your teammates are the bead selectors. Okay? Now, I'm going to show the selectors the process for selecting beads. Okay? The process must be followed exactly as I define it. Any deviation from the process that I observe results in forfeiture of a turn. Okay? You get 10 turns, and the teams are broken down. They have clearly defined roles, right? We have a counter, we have a selector, right? What they are to do is going to be clearly defined. And each team has exactly one job, which is to achieve the maximum score, which is going to be done by maximizing the number of white beads selected and minimizing the number of red beads that are selected. Okay? Now, in order to incentivize proper results, you get 1 point for a white bead, 0 points for a gap, an empty slot in the paddle, okay, and minus 2 points for a red bead. The customer is very, very demanding here. Does not want any red beads, so we are trying to produce white beads only. Okay. So that's clear, yeah. Process clearly defined. Okay. So I'm going to use this to demonstrate. It will confirm neither advantage nor disadvantage on you that I'm using this. So make sure, you know, notice totally objective, right? Everybody's getting measured the same way, right? So the process is to reach in to the source, scoop, without removing the paddle, wiggle it until you think you've got a paddle full, and no loose ones on top of the paddle. And by the way, you only have 15 seconds to do that. Oops, oh well. Everyone has to be in a gap. Can't be loose. No loose beads. Nope, no loose beads. And then they take it out and then show it to the bead counter.
4 minus 6.
So you got 4. Well, you're going to count the white, the red, and the empty. Okay, so we've got 4. No, not this one. This is just practice. I'm just making sure the process is clear. So there were 4 white beads, right? We agree on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
3 red beads and 2 gaps. So you're going to say 4 in the white, 3 in the red, and 2 in the empty. Okay? And then you're going to calculate the score by giving yourself 1 point for each white, minus 2 for each red, and 0 for each gap. Okay? And then, as that is happening, the selector dumps the beads into this Ziploc bag. Then the idea is at the end, the 3 Ziploc bags will be delivered to our very demanding customer who only wants white beads, and we're trying to minimize the defect rate here. Okay? All right. Each container has exactly the same proportion of red beads and white beads, so there is no advantage. It's completely objective here. Everybody's going to follow the same process. All right, any questions? Yes, everybody will scoop at the same time, and you will have 15 seconds to complete the scooping process. So you can't be sitting there jiggling the thing forever to try to do it. You've got 15 seconds total. Okay? So let me get, Al, you know what? We're going to do this old school. No ICs involved, man. Just springs. You must just dump them off as quickly as possible and pull them out. I will give you a warning. How's that? All right. Good. That's good. Okay, and then, so there's a time limit on the scooping, but the scoring, we're going to wait until everybody's done the scoring. And as I said, if I see any deviation from the process, anybody, you know, making a mistake on the scoring or anything, you just get 0 for that turn. Okay? So it is important that this be, the process as I have defined it, be flawlessly executed. Okay? No, you may not remove the paddle from the Tupperware until it only contains beads in the gaps. Okay, the wood must remain within the Tupperware until there's only beads in the gaps. Now you can tip the Tupperware to scoop, and you can move the Tupperware around, but the end of the paddle, this part of the paddle, has to stay inside the entire time where you're scooping out the beads. You can only remove the paddle once there are at most 9 beads, 1 in each slot, at which point the bead counter counts them and writes the score.
And reds are -2.
Reds are -2, and whites are +1, and gaps are 0. Okay? So are we all clear on the process? Yes? Okay, so selectors, grab your Tupperware and your scoops. Yeah, you may agitate it if you'd like. That's fine. You do not become agitated. Okay, so ready, scoop. All right, 5 seconds have elapsed. 10 seconds have elapsed. Whoops, we're getting close. 15 seconds. Okay, so, well, okay. No, you're cheating. You can't. You have to. Okay, you got to dump those extra ones out. Yeah. You can't have. It can't have extra ones. No, he's not cooperating. See now. Okay. Well. Okay. There we go. So remove the paddle. Okay, I'm afraid we have, no, count it first. You're going to count and write your counts up there, and once that's done, then the beads go. Yeah, yours, I'm afraid, is rather easy. Yeah. But look on the plus side, you didn't get a negative score. Yeah. Write down the number of beads. Yeah. And okay, so we had 8 whites, 1 red. Okay, 1 empty. All right, so now calculate your score. Remember, you get 1 point for a white and -2 for a red and 0 for an empty. Okay, so you've got 1, you got 8, -2 is 6, right?
So these are the number of beads.
Yes, so that, yeah. So you get -2, so you've got 6 minus 4 is 2, right? Okay. Now, clearly, the white team is excelling here. They're definitely in great shape. We're ready for round 2. Now, red team, you obviously have a great deal of room for improvement. We'll be watching and monitoring your performance carefully on this next round to make sure that the metric does move in the proper direction. Are we all ready? Okay. Selectors, scoop. Oh. Okay, you got 5 seconds left. 5 seconds. Oh, time's up. Come on. Okay. All right, I'm going to let you get away with that now. Okay, score. All right, you got 3 white beads here, 1 red bead, and five empties. So that's a clear improvement. Good work. Good work. Glad to see that. We got five white beads, 1 red bead, and 3 gaps. White team's moving in the wrong direction here. Clearly moving in the wrong direction. How's the blue team doing? 5. Huh?
Yeah, it could have been 0 instead of -1.
Oh, you could have. Yeah. See, you've definitely moved the metric in the wrong direction. I got -1. Now, okay, that's major regression happening here. That's not good. Yeah. Yeah. You see, if you just. No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a name for that. Anybody know the name for what was just suggested here? Blue team, gaming the metric. Right. You notice that immediately, she's realizing, hey, wait a minute. I know how to play games with this metric, right? I would be better off just by forfeiting my turn if I do a quick count. Yeah, remind you of anything that goes on? All right, we're ready for round 3? Yeah? Okay, go ahead, selectors, scoop. Got 5 seconds left. All right, time is up. Time's up. Okay, well. Okay, score. Yeah.
Same thing.
Got three whites and 1 red, 5 empties. Well, if we were looking for consistency, we'd certainly be the red team would be top of the game here. Yes.
Are we doing cumulative?
We have a scoring error here, don't we? Wait a minute. 5 minus 2. That's actually 3, not 4. We're gaming the metric there, White. Come on. Huh? No. You're going to add it all up at the end. That's why there are totals. That's why there's a total line at the end down there. Yeah. Thank you for. We had an auditor in the audience who detected process variation. Red score is off? Wow, jeez. Huh? 3 minus 2 is 4? No. The totals go at the bottom here, yeah.
Yeah, I had the same question.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Back to the first slide again, right? Yeah. All right, so let's see. 8 minus 2 is 7. 8 minus 2 is 7. 8 minus 2 is 7. 6. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So those of you in the audience, please keep them from gaming the metrics via new math. Okay. I mean, this is clearly we're having a major measurement malfunction here, and we need external auditors to help with that. Now, I mean, I've noticed that we have a process issue here that people are finding that they have inadequate time, and I certainly would not want to come across as a harsh or unreasonable manager, so I'm going to up your time to 25 seconds, a luxurious 25 seconds, okay, over the 15 before, which should aid in your ability to achieve the goal. Yes? Okay, so selectors, ready? Ready, go. You have 15 seconds left. Now you can't use your finger. You got 5 seconds left. 5 seconds. All right, there we go. Scorers score. Okay, so we got six whites, 2 reds, and 1 empty. One empty. Wow, 7 whites, 2 reds. Wow, look at that. Wow. Major, major improvement from blue. Clearly the extra time, you know, a big plus, big help here. Okay, so we're ready for another round. Yes. Okay. Selectors, scoop. Who drilled those holes anyway, huh? Geesh. There you go. Wow, okay, yeah, you're right. I didn't say there was no double dipping, but you've got 5 seconds left. Okay, done. Yes, consistency is good, you know, as a manager, yes. So this is good. So we got six whites, 2 reds, and 1 empty. So yeah, you guys are, yeah, you're getting very consistent. Yes, okay, that's good. Now what's happening here with white? You guys are just all over the map, you know, I mean, are you not getting enough sleep or something? I mean, maybe, you know, okay, yeah, that's clearly, yeah, you know, one scoop is good, the next scoop not so good. I don't know. There's a lot of variation here. Oh, yeah, these guys are bouncing all over the place too. Yeah, so, you know, maybe I should reward consistency, but, you know, we already defined it, and we don't want to change our measures in the middle. Everybody ready to scoop? Huh? Huh?
So 4 minus 2, 4 minus 4.
No, this is the red. So 4 minus 2 is 2, so that's good. Red is wrong. 6 minus 4 is 2. Huh? 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay. Red, please come and correct this. No, I'm gonna allow you to correct it, though. Subsequent detections of errors will result in forfeiture of turn. We'll pretend that was, there we go, okay. Thank you, Johanna. Yes, expert auditing provided by Ms. Rothman there. Okay, ready, scoop. It's off to a promising start. There's a lot of white there. Wow. Looking good, red team. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So let me just wander around and kibitz over the shoulders of my individual contributors, thus greatly improving their productivity, right? Because isn't that what always happens when managers look over your shoulder and say vacuous, encouraging things? Okay, so, oh, look at that. Wow, way to improve, red team. Look at that, 8 white beads and 1 red. Wow. White, you know, they're showing you up. You got 2 reds there, 2 reds, you know. I like the pattern, though, you know. Well, give you, you know, recognize the pattern there. It's very nice, little H there, you know. Yeah. All right, now. Okay, everybody okay with their math here? Auditors are good. All right, scoop. Okay, you got 5 seconds. 5 seconds, 2 seconds. Okay, done. Yeah. Okay, score. And clearly, the scoring process is improving here. So we see, you know, better math skills, more alacrity. Definitely, you know, that needle's moving in the right direction. Okay, ready? Scoop. I guess I'll let you double scoop there. You got 10 seconds left. Yeah. I noticed some motor control issues there. You might cut back on the coffee a little bit. That's okay. All right, done. Time's up. Oh, wow. Yes, definitely. Red team. You guys are getting the hang of this. Getting the hang of it. I can see that. Yep. Holy crow! Look at that. Wow, 5. Our customer's not going to be happy with 5 red beads. That's definitely going to be a big disappointment. You know, I don't know how I'm going to explain this in the client meeting next week. I'm going to have to really, you know, duck and bob on that one. What happened? Did you dump it back into the? Well. Okay, you know, as a manager, I mean, I didn't see it, so maybe it didn't actually happen. It was a stern warning, though. If I detect such deviations in process, there will be consequences. Okay, scoop. Ooh, lots of red there. Whoa. Okay, careful of that. Be careful. Be careful. Yeah. Oh, yep. Keep that white in there. Yes, because exhortations are always a very effective way of managing. Deming said so. Not really. Oh, look at that. Okay, and now we remember where they're going to go this time, right? Yes. And Larry, you got the score? Have you tabulated your score here? I see no tabulation of the score at this point. All right, so, you know, the artistic nature of your paddle just really impresses me, Rachel. I have to say that the numbers aren't so great because that's a 0, but you know it's got a nice look. 2 whites and a red. You know, it's like all lined up, very symmetrical. Yeah, Pontilist painting there on that thing. Okay, we have one last experiment to do. So yeah, dump your. Yeah, there you go. Good, and go scoop. Yeah, I think you're, the coffee, not so much coffee next time. No, motor, reaction time is a factor, so please pay attention to what you're doing. Okay, time is up. See, I think I heard the word dump it. Now, wow, you know, our customer expects to receive a ample quantity of beads as part of this delivery, and the dumping is yeah, no, we can't have that. All right, so please total up your scores. You don't have to total the number of beads entirely as long as we're all confident. My auditors are confident that the individual scores are correct, yes? Yeah? Okay, so let's total them up. Auditors, please do me the favor of checking their math because they've proven to be untrustworthy in this regard. Because, of course, that's what you want to hear managers say. It's, you know, disputing your credibility, right? Because that makes you want to work harder, doesn't it? All right, well, okay, so there we go. So we have red team has 18. They were doing pretty well one time. Whoa, white team, artistic talent, yep, Consistency, no, -8. Blue team, ooh, well, close, but I have to say that the white team, in spite of the fact that they are somewhat wobbly and their consistency does indeed score, they win. So you have 2 prizes here for you, 1 prize each, a hat. So there you go, thank you very much. Thank you. The teams are now free to return to their abode and, I don't know, have dinner, pet their dog, do whatever they do. Okay, thanks guys for playing along with that. Hope I was not too rude. Okay, so, fair? Is that fair? Is that a fair way?
Those beads are flat.
Yeah, and who gave them the beads? Who gave them the beads? I did. Management provides the raw materials, right? Management defined the process. Who gave them the process, right? I told them you got to do it exactly this way, You got to use this, and you got to use this, and you got to score like this, and I almost squashed every attempted process improvement with the exception of the double dip. I did let him get away with the double dip. I could have been a real hard case and just said, no, you can't make any process improvements, no attempted retrospectives, and reflect on how I could do better, right? I almost did that. See, I mean, it looks fair, right? They were evaluated and rewarded in a quantitative and objective fashion. There was no favoritism. I was a jerk, but I wasn't. I was an equal opportunity jerk, right? And actually, these guys did pretty well, given that I'd loaded the deck against them, right? Because what you don't know is that 1/3 of the beads here are red and 2/3 are white. So statistically speaking, they should have scored 0, right? Pure random chance would have put, so they actually did pretty well at bucking the random nature of this thing. The fact that all of them scored a positive score shows how hard they were trying to fight against this totally unfair process, right? Now you might say, oh, come on, this is silly. But really? Have you never seen anything like this? Never, ever? I've seen this stuff as a consultant a bunch of times, different variations on this theme. And then, that story I just told you about the government agency, the same kind of thing, except that it was worse in that I was setting up a negative dynamic, they were setting up a negative dynamic between the teams, right? Between the testing team and the development team, right? So this is the #1 stupid metric trick to avoid, that and setting people against each other, okay? So, to paraphrase the Google motto, don't be toxic, right? With your metrics, don't be toxic. All right, which one of these is colder, blue or red?
No way to know.
No way to know because?
There's no indication of what the scale represents.
Good. There is no representation of the units. Okay? What if blue is Celsius and red is Kelvin? Yeah? See, but you look at, I'm not going to force any of you to admit this, but I bet a lot of you, when you first looked at it, went, ding, blue is colder, because the number was lower, and plus it's blue and not red, right? Yeah, we do this stuff. So you might say, no. We are smart. We do not do these things. Really? Test pyramid. All right, now I'm a big fan of the test pyramid. How many of you are familiar with the test pyramid? Stick your hand up. I don't. Okay, so for those of you who aren't, the testing pyramid basically says focus in Agile on having lots of tests at the unit level and do most of your testing there, and then as you go up to the higher levels of testing, culminating in acceptance test, have fewer tests there, okay? Yep, that's a well-proven best practice of testing, which is early detection and removal of defects. Don't let them sit around a long time. But don't take it literally. I've seen this. People like counting up, how many unit tests do we have? How many acceptance tests do we have? So people do this. That's exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing is here. You ever looked at a unit test? Those of you who aren't developers, you may not have a lot of time looking at it, but do you know they test like one little thing? 3 or 4 lines of code maybe. That's where the focus of the test is. An acceptance test will often be a flow through the entire system, end to end. I'm talking user acceptance test, not, you know, the demo, right? How can you possibly compare a test that covers the entire system against a test that, you know, is focused on a few lines of code? How do you do math on those things? You add them up? Really? Compare them? I've got 100,000 unit tests, and I've got 1,000 acceptance tests. Yay, I'm Mr. Test Pyramid. No, you're Mr. Bad Mathematics. Right? So it happens. Related, but somewhat different. Automate everything. Have you ever seen this? Have you got, you know, seen this goal? 100% test automation. All tests must be automated. No? None? Wow. Really? Okay, so you just don't want to admit it. It happens. I think it happens a lot more than people are admitting in this room. Maybe there's deep shame about this. Oh my God, my manager did that. I'm going to say it out loud. But it's, you know, it's a bad idea, right? And it's a bad idea that needs to go. Because basically what that's saying is, if it's not automatable, don't test it, right? Don't do usability testing. Usability doesn't matter. That's a stupid statement, right? I mean, when I say usability doesn't matter, so don't do usability testing, all of you are sitting there going, whoa, that's really dumb. But you can't automate a usability test, can you? No, okay? Localization testing. Can't automate that. That doesn't matter. Really? There's this verb in Spanish, coger, which means to get. It's a very useful verb, which is used widely in most parts of Latin America, except in a few places where coger means to get only one thing. And to use that word is very rude. So if your user interface says, coja la punta or something like that, get the point, right? You know, that isn't going to go over well in Uruguay. Right? Who's going to know that? A machine? Can you automate that? Right? So don't let the automated tail wag the testing dog. See, Phil, I got it back to dogs, so it was that. Now, as a consultant, when I do assessments, one of the things I like to look at is the effectiveness of the results reporting from the test team. And so I ask people outside of the test team 2 what I think are very simple questions. Do you understand the test results? And does your understanding of the test results help you do your job? And unfortunately, there are 2 common answers to this. No and no. No, I don't understand the test results. And of course, since I don't understand them, they can't help me do my job, right? The other one is yes, but no. Oh, yeah. I understand what they're telling me. That's not helpful. It's like this guy here, right? Seen this cartoon? Excuse me, can you tell me where I am? Yes, you're in a hot air balloon hovering 30 feet above this field. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the guy in the balloon knew that. Right? And it's a true thing. That's a true statement. But does that help the guy get to where he needs to go? No. Right? It does not. How How am I doing on time? Supposed to be done when? 9:20. Yeah, but that. Thanks, Phil. And when am I supposed to be done? 9:40. Cool. Okay. I swear to God, we did not set that up. So, but you see how easy that is to do, right? I mean, really and truly, we did not set that up. You know, how am I doing on time? Phil told me what time it was. All right, that wasn't what I was asking for. So, you know, are you sure that you are giving your stakeholders the information that they actually need from you? I mean, if Phil and I can miscommunicate over what I'm asking with respect to how much time I have left versus what time is it, you know, quality measurements, test progress measurements. So you might say in reaction to that, well, I'll just give them everything. Whoosh, right? Let's go with a water cannon of raw data coming out of the test team. And you know, the tools will really help you do this, won't they? Oh man, okay, now I'm sorry, I'm gonna pick on, what is it now? It's not Quality Center anymore, or ALM, or have they changed the name again? Borland owns it now, right? So who knows what they're gonna call it, or whatever. Just pick on them. For those of you who are from HP, sorry, you know, I could make the same comment about Rational or any of the other tools, but you know, these test management tools can just produce this incredible number of reports focusing on how many bugs and the status of test cases. Water cannon of data hitting managers in the face, right? I've seen this, and I'm sure you have too. I won't ask you, any of you to admit to having done it, but showing up in project status meetings with like 20, 30, 40 pages of whatever came shooting out of ALM, Quality Center, Rational Test Manager, whatever the tool is that you have and that you use, right? And thinking, wow, I'm really giving them some information here. Well, you're giving them something, but it's probably a headache, okay? So now, worst example of this that I've ever seen, I went in to do an assessment for a project, and this is a true, honest-to-God postmortem. The project had failed. And so I'm looking at this report. Now, there's these, on this project, they had a test team of consultants from a large consulting company. I won't name the name, but you know, you can guess. Big testing service provider. And I'm not going to name the name because it wouldn't be fair, because I would bet that I could probably find an example of the same kind of story about any testing service provider out there. There were two guys who all they did for the whole 12-week test execution period before the project died is produce this 100-page long test status report. May not have been 100 pages, it may have only been 50, but it was a full-time job for two guys for 12 weeks. Okay, so do the math here. We're talking about you know, $100,000 roughly. So I go to the project manager and I ask her, okay, so this looks like an awful lot of data. Could you help me by pointing out which of these charts are like your key dashboard elements, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, you know, the handful of things that you really rely on to do your job. And I figured surely she's got a favorite, one or two things where she says these give me insight, but nope. She said, oh, that damn thing, I don't look at it at all. I just throw it right in the garbage. $100,000 at least producing that report. Nobody ever bothered to ask her, hey, does this help you? And she didn't bother to say, right? Because she just assumed, oh, well, they're professional testers. They must know what they're doing, right? So just because nobody's coming to you as a tester and saying, dude, I have no idea what you're telling me. You're not helping me. Just because no one's coming and making that statement to you doesn't mean that that's not what's going through their head when you're giving them the fire hose, right? Or they may be sitting there thinking, wow, I must be really stupid because I'm not getting any of this, right? But it's a miscommunication. There's always ownership on both sides of that, yeah? Okay, so ask key questions like, what have we tested and what haven't we tested? What are the risks? If we go into production right now, what are the risks? What level of confidence can we have and in what parts of the system? How do we know our app is not going to send a driver to the middle of the Columbia River? Good question to ask, because that's what management actually should care about. Now, you might be saying, oh man, this has really been a depressing litany and demonstration of how to screw up metrics. Maybe I just won't do them at all. No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying don't do metrics. It is very difficult to make fact-based decisions when you have no facts. And measurements are a key part of having facts. And not all facts are measurements, but to say I'm not going to take any measurements and I'm going to rely only on facts which are not derived from measurements is kind of like pulling out one of your eyes. Yeah. You might say, well, I can pull out an eye. My other eye's pretty good, and I'm really smart. And, you know, my brain works. So, cool. So, what happens when you make decisions based on what sounds reasonable versus measurement? Well, ask Aristotle. Aristotle, yeah, smart Greek guy. Said a lot of smart things. He also said that heavy objects fall faster than lighter objects. That's what Aristotle said. And that was accepted as true for 2,000 years until Galileo went up in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which wasn't leaning quite so much, but it was leaning enough for him to take two different weight cannonballs and drop them out off of the ledge and notice that instead of thud, thud, it was thud. Both hit the ground exactly at the same time. Okay? Now, you know, measurement, data, right? Now you might say, well, gee, couldn't Aristotle have done that? Yeah. You ever seen Greece? Does Greece look like Kansas? Is it flat? Is there no place to stand from which one can drop different objects of different weights? I mean, look at you've seen pictures of it. It's cliffs everywhere, right? Stand on the edge of a cliff with two rocks of a different weight, drop them. See which one hits the ground first. Oh, look at that. They both hit at the same time. Simple experiment, right? Simple measurement, you know? That which sounds reasonable can be wrong. And could be very wrong and lead to some very bad ideas. Now, you know, the rate of falling objects is, you know, maybe not a huge issue, but, you know, you make decisions, release decisions based on what sounds reasonable without any facts, any measurement. Lots of luck by that, right? Do you want proof by assertion or proof by evidence? Which of those do you want to rely on? Speaking of evidence, what's wrong with this picture? Ostriches don't actually bury their heads in the sand. That's right. Yep. How many of you all knew that? Yeah, okay, see? So a lot of you are just looking at this going, oh, there's a picture of an ostrich with his head in the sand. Nothing remarkable about that, except it's just wrong. It looked reasonable, but it was wrong. Okay, so good metrics. What do you need to do to get good metrics and avoid some of these stupid metrics tricks? We'll start off with what you're trying to achieve. And then use the technique which one of the speakers yesterday was talking about, this idea of the goal, question, metric technique of, so, okay, well, how am I going to measure whether I'm achieving this objective? Excuse me. Measure effectiveness, but also measure efficiency. And if you're confused about the difference between effectiveness and efficiency, well, think about how you got here today. You got here one way or the other, so you all effectively got here. Did any of you take a tank? You drive a tank? That would get you here. It would. But it wouldn't be very efficient, would it, compared to a car or a bus or a bicycle? Yeah? Yeah, it might be satisfying, especially in traffic, yeah. Now, another thing is satisfaction, okay? Think about satisfaction. So let's see, we want to be effective and efficient. Why is satisfaction important? Well, let's suppose that you go to get a cup of coffee, an espresso or something like that, a latte, right? And you go in, you're in a hurry, you stop at this place you never stopped at before, and wow, look at that. They've got your favorite drink and it's half price, right? You order it, and boom, you're in and out of there. You know, in 2 minutes. You expected it was going to take you 5 minutes. Okay, so you got what you wanted, right? That was effective, and it was cheap and it was quick, so it was efficient. So are you happy? Maybe not. Might not be. What was that? Maybe not. Maybe even at that moment you're not so happy, because what if when you went in there you had, like, you know, the surliest wait staff ever. And you look at the guy who's making the coffee, he's got no hairnet, and he's got, like, just, you know, stuff coming out of his hair, and then on the way out the door you see a cockroach go scurrying past your foot. Coming back? Probably not, right? So satisfaction is important. Make sure that you ask people about satisfaction. Use surveys to get people's level of satisfaction with the service that you're providing, because after all, as a testing organization, you are a service provider. You do not build a product. Don't hit anybody with the water cannon of data, all right? Concise, relevant, actionable. Be able to answer the so what question about any metric. Make sure that your tools are set up so that it's easy to gather the metrics. And make sure that you train people in how to actually use the tool properly. I had a client tell me a story about bringing in a consultant from the United States to another country and spend weeks with them setting up their defect tracking system to do orthogonal defect classification. I have a pretty good idea of what this guy charges on a daily basis, and so this was a huge investment on their part. He gets done and he says, oh, okay, well now it's time for me to train all of your staff. And these guys have like 10,000 people in their organization, their product development organization, and they probably quickly did the math and realized, whoa, that's a lot more money. And they said, oh, no, we won't need any training. We'll just make all the fields mandatory. Yeah. So a year later, they go sit down, maybe it was 6 months later, whenever they couldn't wait to unwrap their present, they sat down to look at, you know, what all the interesting things that we'll learn out of the patterns of classifications of defects that we've now gotten through ODC. Yeah, guess what? Do a histogram of each classification, and the overwhelming number one value picked for every single one of the classifications is the first one on the pull-down list. So, $500,000 up in smoke. So don't set up any metrics if you're not going to train people in how to use them properly and consistently. And don't nudge, incentivize, otherwise direct people to do bad things by giving them rewards or punishments for process metrics. And of course, when you go to deliver your findings, tell people what they need to know, not what you want to tell them. Okay? There's this rule in political interviews: never answer the question you were asked, answer the question you wish you were asked. If you've never heard that before, turn on the news tonight and watch and notice. You'll see, right? They never answer the question they were asked. For us, it's the opposite. Always and only answer the question that you were asked, right? You're there to provide information, okay? Don't talk about irrelevant crap that doesn't matter to your audience. Okay, so some quick conclusions to leave time for a little Q&A here. So, you know, the fact that you're measuring something is going to change behavior. I said can change behavior here. I probably should say will change behavior. There's no way that you're going to measure something and behavior's not going to change. It's going to redirect attention. People will pay attention to the thing that's being measured and less attention to the things that aren't being measured, even if it kind of occurs to them that maybe that's not such a great idea, like texting while you're walking across a street. Notice from that slide before, people knew it was a stupid thing to do and they admitted that they did it anyway. The fact that your heart is in the right place does not count as an excuse. Okay? You can be well-intentioned, but if you do this wrong, this is going to be bad news. Those people at that government agency I talked to, they really, really were trying to be good people and do the right thing and not be unfair. They were also totally destroying, actually had already totally destroyed the morale of their team. Hopefully this has given you some insights into the kind of mistakes that can be made so that you can avoid them. But don't just say, well, because metrics are hard to do, therefore I won't do metrics. Hey, getting out of bed is hard to do. And for me anyway, I like to sleep. You know, alarm goes off, I'm like, oh man, I could stay in bed. Yeah, well, okay. Get over it. Okay, you're a professional, learn to do this stuff right. You need to get facts. Put some good metrics in place. You're going to make mistakes. Watch for the mistakes and fix them. Okay. Do we have time for a few questions? Yes? Questions? I got one in the front here.
So you say you want to use a concise set of metrics? So you say use a concise set of metrics. So I can imagine that concise should not be too small, because if you pick a number that's like, say, one metric, people will find a way to game it no matter what it is, no matter how good it is. So what's a good number? I mean, how many do you have to have so that people will give up the idea of gaming and just kind of like just let the chips fall where they are?
Well, yeah, I mean, gaming is a real issue, and so there is a need to have balance. So when you're looking at a metric, I mean, you're going to have to realize any one metric, yes, can definitely be gamed. So when you're looking at a metric, you do some what-ifing about, okay, well, how could this metric be telling me something that's factually correct but is actually misleading in terms of what it seems to be telling me, right? And then come up with either refine that metric to defeat that, or put some other balancing metric in place, right? Like, so for example, defect find rate. I can make defect find rate go to 0 really easily. As one of my clients told me, that one development manager figured out how to do that by just giving matinee tickets to all the testers every day. Come in, read your email in the morning, and then go watch movies all afternoon. Defect find rate goes to 0, they ship the product. Right? That wasn't what they had in mind, right? Because they were thinking, well, the quality is better. So yeah, you have to balance these things out. So yeah, you always have to ask that question. But again, and on the other hand, you know, you don't want too much, right? So how do I make sure that I'm giving a balanced presentation and I'm watching out for things that might be wrong, you know, misleading about my metrics, but at the same time, you know, keeping it concise. Now, I don't know about any sort of magic number, but you know, I've tended over my career as a test manager to have, say, 4 or 5 things that I'm reporting in regular status. And then if one of the metrics is telling me something is going wrong in a particular area, I'll usually try to do some sort of causal analysis and come with things like scatter plots or Pareto charts or something like that to give people insight into, okay, see this is weird, now this is why this is happening, right? So there's your standard dashboard, but you also have to be ready to, when the dashboard raises obvious questions, or maybe not so obvious questions, be ready to address those and give people insights. Is that a good answer? Yeah, okay, cool. Time for another?
You segued right into the next question I was going to ask, which is, okay, we've collected data, metrics, we've seen a deviation or something we want to take action on.
Yeah.
But do you share some tips on how to be most effective on the action side? Sometimes people collect metrics and they see that something's wrong, but then they get to the, oh crud, now what? Or you get into a flurry of who owns it, or you know, that whole dialogue.
Brainstorming problem, yeah.
Do you have some insights on what's worked effectively with organizations, you know, either establishing ownership up front, saying, if we find a deviation, this team's going to run with it after some root cause analysis, et cetera?
Well, of course, team dynamics differ from one team to another, so I don't think it's possible to give a uniform answer to that. But I think a couple things that could help that I've seen done and done myself is if before going into a meeting to give a presentation and metrics that are potentially going to make one or more of the people in the meeting look bad, don't sandbag them by showing up and not giving them a heads up, but rather go and meet with them beforehand so that you cut off that blame-storming thing that could break out if they feel like, oh crap, I'm being attacked, so I better defend, and then the whole meeting is about who did what, right? And in that course of that conversation of giving them the heads up, I think a good question to ask is, how can we work together to solve this problem? So that you can come to the meeting with an agreed upon solution, right? Which I think is ideal. If you're going to come to a meeting and there are problems, I think it makes sense to have a solution, a suggestion ready, because otherwise I think you have you make the mistake that test managers sometimes make, which is what I call the dead fish on the conference room table mistake. You just walk in and you give your bad news, right? And it's like, flap, here's a dead fish, doesn't it stink? And everybody's sitting around going, whoa, yeah, that really stinks, right? Whereas, if you've got some suggestions that you can make, especially if you've already talked to people on the development team and so forth, and you can say, hey, we talked and we think we'd like to try this, this, and this as a way of solving this problem. My take on that is most of the time management is going to go, oh, problem, solution. Cool. You guys go off and do that and let us know how that turns out, right? And then that can short circuit, I think, some of that stuff. Yeah, thanks. Time for another one, or?
As with any statistics, there's always going to be bias within any kind of metric that you have.
Yeah, sure.
So what is the best way that you can either mitigate or try to take away the bias of any kind of either outliers within a statistic, or just to look at the raw numbers and say, this is where the problem is, and this is where we should fix it, other than saying, based on my past experience and based on where I've seen this before, X is the problem, Y is not the problem, let's fix X, and kind of overlook Y.
So I think you're actually looking at a couple, or pointing at a couple things there. One is sort of noise in the data, right? Noise and bias in the data, which that's going to require some long-term analysis of your metrics over time to see that, right? You should of course have that. You should always have that in mind, right? That hey, this is a measurement that how accurate it is subject to question. I had a car when I first started driving, somewhat more sophisticated than one I got my daughter. It was a Ford F-100 truck, 3 on the tree, if you don't know what that is. And it had this wonderful speedometer. Now, the speedometer, is basically it's an ammeter that's hooked up to one of the wheels, right? So the faster it goes, the more current it creates. Well, there was a problem somewhere or another, and the speedometer would go like this. It's an analog speedometer, right? It'd waggle around. The only good thing about that is if I got pulled over for speeding, I could say, the cop says, how fast were you going? I don't know, somewhere between 30 and 90 miles an hour. So, you have to be aware of what is that false signal, the noise that's in there. Now, then the other thing I think you were pointing at is the why. And this is a mistake that people sometimes make is, they see a behavior in the numbers. And this is, again, one of these human psychology things that we are cursed with a need for a quick answer to why something is happening, right? Now, so to paraphrase Mencken, for every complicated question there is a simple answer, and that answer is wrong. So we tend to want to jump to conclusions, right? So, learning how to do things like Pareto analysis and scatter plots and so forth, and really try to tease apart, why is this happening before coming to a conclusion is a very valuable thing to do. And, you mentioned statistics, and I think that's important that if you're not familiar with basic statistics and tools like Pareto charts and scatter plots and so forth, you need to go off and learn that stuff, because otherwise you're kind of the sorcerer's apprentice with your metrics, right? You get the brooms and the mops are dancing around, but you don't really know when you're not really in control. All right. Time's up?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, great.
Well, thanks very much.
All right. Thank you. It's a lot of fun. Thank you.